My name is Gary Alana Aupo Lealohalani Pao Savio. I grew up kind of in a mix between Nānākuli homesteads and Kalihi Kai area. That's kind of the two places I grew up in. My dad was a big-time drug dealer and my mom was a drug addict basically from the day I was born. And he, that's what I was brought up in. I was brought up in a drug, there's like drugs everywhere. That's kind of all I knew. Drugs, crimes, violence. My dad was a very violent person towards lots of people, but especially towards women. And so I saw a lot of stuff growing up. So my mom and my dad split when I was around 2. And I lived mostly with my mom we moved around, but we lived University area and then Kalihi area. But I stayed in Kalihi Kai kind of for a long time. That's where I went to Pōhaku Elementary for most of my elementary. And I would say like maybe around 8 years old. Then, my dad, I would go with him on weekends, and then it would become more infrequent. And then eventually I was like, where's my dad? And then I got a letter finally that he went to prison. He got like a 12-year sentence. That was when I was about 8. I played lots of sports in school. That's kind of like how I survived, was I played a lot of sports in school. And I got a lot of comfort from my teachers and my coaches and those kinds of things. But I have a brother that's 4 years younger than me, and I basically took care of him and raised him and did the whole thing. And then when I was 6th grade, we moved back to the west side. My mom had a hard time she was a single mom of 2 kids. With the drug addiction problem, she had a hard time keeping us housed all the time. So sometimes we would go to the continent where my brother's grandparents lived, and we would stay there for the summer, and then we'd come back because we needed to find housing. And so we moved back to the west side, which I didn't realize how much it kind of affected me, because I'm from the west side too, but I was pulled out of all of my stuff that was good in my life. Sports and school and teachers and all those things in 6th grade. And I really resented that for a really long time. I'm just kind of starting to notice how much really that affected me over the years, in my life. And so I rebelled, and I never go to school. I quit school in 7th grade. And then, I started drinking and all that kind of stuff. And I was 12-ish years old. I was smoking cigarettes out of the ashtray and stuff before then. But, and I had a much older girlfriend than myself. And I was always butch. My whole life I was always butch. I never really had to come out to anybody in my family. I was always butch. And I always now I look back at it and it's kind of funny. I played baseball and I had the extra large cup. I was really small and I had the extra large cup. It must have looked ridiculous, but my mom let me buy it and I really liked it. So those are all the I see I was always māhū identified. I just never had words or any of that for it.
So your mother embraced it the whole time?
She never told me, she never told me that that's wrong, or I shouldn't buy that, or I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't dress like that. She never told me those things, which I really appreciate, And then, so I quit school, I started drinking, all that kind of stuff, and then me and my mom got into a fight, and she called the cops on me, and she told me it's because she doesn't want me to end up like her. She wants me to have a better life. So I went to DH and all that stuff for the first time, and then the day before I was supposed to get out, I was 14 at the time, the day before I was supposed to get out, she passed away. She overdosed. And so that was kind of a turning point in my life, for the worst, of course. Before then, I never did do hard drugs or anything like that. I was never going to be like my parents. But after that, I really I went kind of off the deep end. I started doing meth. I wanted to die, but on accident, because I wanted to go where my mom was, which was like heaven. But we're not I never was religious, but you know, these things, right, in life, and they kind of, taint your worldview. So I did that for a while. I did like every program on Oahu. I ran away from every program. I lived on the streets. I did all kinds of stuff. And then I went to U Challenge Academy on Oahu, and I was out in and out of DH and in and out of these places. And I went to U Challenge, and then I graduated from there at 17. I went into the Air Force for a quick bit, but I came home after basic training, waiting for school, and I relapsed. And then I went to prison. And then in prison, that's kind of where I started my, my dad in my family, there's him and his brother Carl, he's been a commercial fisherman my whole life. So there's been some cultural stuff in my family, but not a whole lot. But when I went to jail, there was this program called Kealaula that I went into. It was a part of Hinamauka, and I went to there, and that's where I started to find my Hawaiianness. There was hula there, even though it was, not hula that I would see myself doing, because I was still expressing as female, but there was hula there. I started to look at my genealogy and start to see I have other things I can pull from, not only drugs and crime and violence and all those kinds of things, because that's really all I knew. I didn't know anything else. And so I started to find my kupuna, through that process, and be my grandmother, which I never met, was super into Olala Hawaiʻi and would teach all the kids, and she's from Lanai, and I started to look up all this information, and I have Molokaʻi family, and I started to realize I have some roots here to I have some lineage to pull from, so that I can start to figure out who I am, because I did not know, I only knew what I knew. And so that's where I really started my journey to, I think, back to my Hawaiianness, back to my piko, back to my center, finding those things about myself. And then I got out of prison at 23, and my sponsor was friends with somebody that's on the board of Hakipu'u Learning Center, and she told me, because I was always told, you're never going to work with kids, because I'm a felon, right? You're never going to work with kids. I don't have any violent felonies or anything, but you're never going to work with kids. You're not going to be able to work in the school system and stuff like that. But she told me, just go try. I'm going to let my friend know you're going to come in for an interview, and just go try. So I was okay. So I went, and I told them the truth. I told them, I just got out of jail 2 months ago. And I said, but you're not going to find somebody that's going to work more hard, for the kids, for myself, because I really want something better in life. And it was me and this kumuhula who were up for the same job, and it was an educational assistant position, and I was guarantee she's gonna get it. But they asked us to do a small writing sample, and I did it and she didn't. So they hired me, and that's basically how I came to I know work and all those kinds of things. So at Hakipu'u Learning Center we have Mauka and Makai classrooms, right? And so because I was an educational assistant, I went to the places Mauka class and Makai class. And when I went to the lo'i for the first time, I just started kind of like crying. I didn't know why. I just felt like something in me came home. And so after that, I would like pack my car and I would like, because nobody wants to go get dirty and all day, the other educational assistants. So I would trade them for their days all the time. And I didn't know, Uncle Cal was like watching, right? So in order to do that Mauka job, you have to really love it because it's hard. You're in the elements all day, you got kids all day, it's dirty, it's not your classroom situation, your average classroom situation. You have to like want to do it. So I think so many people kind of like went in and out of that role, and then finally he told me, Ala, you like do the lo'i job. And I was like, I would love to, Uncle, but I don't really know what I'm doing yet. He was like, it's okay, I will help you. And for like 5 years maybe, I just followed him around. He took me under his wing. He taught me about imu. He taught me about finding the water and bringing the water down. He taught me about walking in the bushes. He taught me about making implements. He taught me about, how to have a good pilina with the aina. He taught me about everything, like all of my base knowledge in aloha aina work and pilina with the aina, and kind of like pilina with self is from his like allowing me to like be with him. And he never like, he just like met me where I was at, and then one day I was like, I used to call him every morning like, Uncle, you need anything, I coming. And one day he told me, kinda, I'm not coming today. And he never came again. That's like how you like graduate, right? Like he's felt like I could do it now. And I did that job for about 8 years total, the Hakipu Learning Center job. And then I transitioned there. So like in front of my students, in front of the staff. It wasn't easy, but I think it was worth it to show the students that you can be who you are at any time in life, and you can do it in your home where you're at. You don't have to leave, you don't have to run away, you don't have to like create a different identity. You can do it here. It's not simple, it's a little bit hard, but it's worth it if you want, and if you want to stay home, you can. So I did it, in front of them, and it was hard. The students are better than the staff. Not all staff, most staff was fine. There's just a few. And then we decided, Krista trained under Lavon Ohai for La'au Lapa'au. So she taught that at the university. And then I taught, we're on the same campus. That's how we met. Yep. And so we wanted to have a family. But we didn't really want to have it on Oahu because it's like, as soon as you leave your house, your pu'uhonua, whatever, it's just like so much, all the time. And we wanted to be able to like be home with our kids, spend time with our kids, be at the place where we're gonna live versus like working 2-3 jobs in order to never spend time at your house or with your kids, And so we started looking around, and we looked on Oahu, and we said, we could do this, but we're going to have a huge mortgage and lots of debt. And then I told her, let's start looking off island, but we decided that only if it's perfect. So we went to Maui, and about 15 minutes in, we're like, we might as well just stay home if we're going to go Maui. And I said, I used to come here with KS every year with their land assets because we had some of their aina, that's where the lo'i was at in Heia. So I used to come here every year with them, and I told her, I really like the Big Island, let's go check out the Big Island. We came here and we decided that we could do this. We could like live here and be here. Uncle Cal, I think, was a little bit upset that I was leaving and I understand that. But I told him, like, you wanted to grow farmers, and you grew me, and I'm gonna farm, I'm gonna teach people hopefully how to farm. But for me, farming is not just like growing plants. It's like growing myself, growing people, figuring out. That's how I like compost things, whether it be emotions or those kinds of things. Like it's really like, if I have a lot of questions and stress in my life, like I'm gonna go pull weeds. The weeds are gonna like show me, and I'm gonna like I'm gonna take those things I don't want in my life out with the weeds, and I'm gonna throw it out, and I'm gonna compost it, and I'm gonna make it into something usable. So farming saved my life, and it continues to save my life. Being a mahiʻi, having the lifestyle of a mahiʻi continues to save my life all the time, every day. And that's really what I want to do, is I want to stay well, and I want to help. I don't want to help people because people don't need like my help, they're not like a problem to be solved. But I feel like if I can like facilitate the relationship between people and aina somehow, that they can maybe find that. So when we first came here, I had like KS coming here, I had like some schools coming here, and then we had the first kid, and then I was like, I'm gonna cut back a little bit, and then we had the second kid, and I was like, every time I would schedule something, I'd be like, I don't want to do it, I'm so tired, and, but you can't like cancel on school, right? So
how old are your kids?
She is 3, she's gonna be 4 in May, and La is 7, gonna be 19, yeah, so 3 and 7, so we're even me and Krista were talking, like for our word of the year is home. Our kuleana, our awamo is this place, home. And I always invite people to come over. We have plenty of friends that come over. And we're starting to work, like, we just last year opened Kū Ānuenue. Is a nonprofit. So me and my wife and Jess are the founders of Kū Ānuenue, and then what happened was we've been thinking about, so when I transitioned, because I passed very well, so we were together as a lesbian couple before I transitioned, and then I always had māhū wahine, in my life. I always knew them and stuff. But then one day she told me, she said, you can like transition, right? Like you can like take hormones and stuff out. And I never like thought about it, and I was like, what? And then like 2 weeks later I was at the doctor doing the thing, and 2 months later I was like getting my first surgery and stuff like that. And but the other side, so there's like a lot of joy and liberation and those things in that, but the other side is we totally disappear from queer spaces, and that's kind of like, it's like if you're a very, very fair Hawaiian, and you go into like Hawaiian spaces, like people don't give you the same, you don't have the same like connection with people right away, and that's sad when you always had a connection to people, and then all of a sudden it's kind of gone because they don't know, that you're queer or you're māhū or whatever. So now it's a lot more apparent. People are kind of like, it's a lot more in the mainstream media and on social media and stuff like that. But when I transitioned, it was, not super out there, so nobody knew. So we've been kind of like thinking of how to create a space where people can come as they are, and we can all like hang out, get to know each other, and grow in our community in that way. But and over the years we've become more liberal and more, our ideas are a little radical sometimes for lots of people. But really liberation is what I think we as a family seek in this time that we have here, And so that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to be like liberated people so that other people can feel to be liberated too. You know, not like and we don't want to be like the host of that, because nobody can do that for you except yourself. But we would like to be the container for that, you know? I think that's kind of the big thing, is like liberation as a Kanaka, as a māhū, you know, as the cross-section of those things, as somebody who grew up very poor and then I have lots of resource now. You know, like, there's like all kind of cross-sections that I come from, and I think the center of it is like, I just want to be like liberated from those things, in those things, you know, liberated in those things. I'll go back to the Kū Ānuenue story. So we've been thinking about, you know, a place for a long time, but we don't like paperwork. Like, we're dreamers, we're like, you know, manifestors. We're like, yeah, let's like get together, let's do the thing. We have some resource we can put to this, but give me this much papers and it's never going to get done. But Jess is a master of paperwork and organization. So we were talking at La'e's birthday party almost a little over a year ago, and she said, you know, the KS Scholars program, they're like gonna stop the whole program. And she's been doing that for like 13 years or something. And she says, you know, my job is gonna end, and I want to help our queer community, our māhū community, too, so why don't we just do it all together? And we all met on the Mauna in 2015. That's how we all met. And so we decided, yeah, let's go do it together. So, you know, she's done so much paperwork, logistics, and all of those things. And we, you know, found the hale and got that going and, you know, decorated it. And, you know, we did all the dreamers and manifester kind of side of that. But, and, you know, it brings its own... Working with people in general from different parts of life brings its own challenges, always, as you probably know, you know, like, and you don't always see eye to eye, you don't always have the same values or politics or whatever, but, you know, I think we're all trying to do something bigger than ourselves, and we want it to be like a true community organization. We want to decentralize the power dynamic as much as possible, decolonize the way that things are set up as much as possible. And it's a hard learning curve because we're so used to this hierarchical way of doing things and being. You know, the more ideas, the more you gotta like talk it out, figure it out. But I feel like that's what it's about. Like, I want, you know, that 19-year-old kid's idea to be just as important as my idea, because it is just as important as my idea, you know, like, and it may not be the same idea, but it is just as important. Like, your idea is just as important as my idea, and I think that's where like connection comes in, you know, like, I don't want to like invite you into Kū Ānuenue. I don't want to invite you in. You're already invited, you know what I mean? And that's how I want to feel in the world too. Like, I don't want to feel like I gotta like be a certain way or act a certain way or whatever to be invited into spaces. Like, I want to just feel like I am a part of this thing. You know, I'm a part of this community. I am a part of this thing. I can just be however I feel today. I can be however I am today. And I want other people to be able to do that too. And it doesn't happen all the time. And it's an inside job, right? More than an outside job. The more I work with other māhū and trans-identified people, and the more I like start relationships with them, the more I feel like, for me right now in my life, that's kind of where it's at. It's like, I see you, and you're trans-identified or māhū-identified, and I am too, and I feel an automatic familial connection with you. Like, you're my sibling, you know? And I'm gonna do whatever I can do to like malama that, kokua you know, Yeah, there's not a whole lot of mahukane voices that get heard. I'm trying to help lots of the young people. There's a lot of young mahukane just coming up. They're not quite doing the medical transition yet. They're just getting out of their parents' houses and, you know, doing those things. And I'm trying to you know, malama them and hang out with them, and so that there can be, you know, more of a presence in the community of us, because I think it's important. You know, being mahū is a trip.